Death Blow. Death Blow. Death Blow. Death Blow.
Hello, this is Lennart and you are listening to Death Blow Podcast.
Hello, this is me, Darkel, and welcome to a new episode of Death Blow Podcast. Subscribe, like, and share my YouTube video, and listen even on Spotify and Apple Podcast, the audio versions, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok for more updates and news. Today, I want to talk with you about a one-man band from Belgium. This is Druon Antigon, and with their experimental sound, you will be surprised by these songs. A fresh air in atmospheric black metal sound. Now, I will leave you with the rest of the interview.
Hello.
Welcome, Lennart Jansen. What a beautiful name, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah. I present myself, you don't know me. I am Darkel. I am the owner of Death Blow Podcast. And I am here today because I discovered your band, that is Druon Antigon. Welcome to this channel.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you. I'm honored. It's all quite new for me, so...
So, what can you tell me about this band, Druon Antigon? That is a name that I never heard before. What is the meaning of it?
Druon Antigon is like a slightly adapted version of the name Druon Antigon, which is a mythical giant from Belgian folklore. That is supposedly the source of where the city of Antwerp, where I live nearby, partly got its name from. The myth goes that there was a giant living way back when in the region who would ask people for toll to enter or to pass the canal or the river Schelde. And if they could not pay the toll, the giant would cut off their hand until one day a soldier named Silvius Brabo came along, challenged the giant to a duel, won the duel and cut off the giant's hand, which he threw in the river Schelde. And if you translate to throw a hand in Dutch, it will be Handwerpen, and the name of the city is Antwerpen. So that's the myth where it got its name from. And I mostly just really like the sound of Druon Antigon. It sounds like both folkloristic and kind of futuristic at the same time. So I went with that one.
Yeah, very interesting, the history behind it. And this new album that is called Het Donkere Volmaakte, I don't know the pronounce, I'm sorry, contains a mix of doom and black metal and even experimental sound. How is possible this mix?
First of all, I want to say you actually really did good on the pronunciation. It's almost spot on. Het Donkere Volmaakte al.
Okay.
It's the concept for the music is basically because on the one side I really like extreme metal, like black metal, doom metal. On the other hand, I also really like the more experimental side of electronic music, stuff like Aphex Twin, Venetian snares, that kind of stuff. And I was looking for a way to bring those two interests together. That's basically the basis for the sound of Druon Antigon. So it's on one hand a lot of the electronic stuff that I make on the computer, and on the other hand the guitars and the vocals that are more traditionally recorded.
And you come from Belgium. I never interviewed a band from Belgium, so I thought that was quite interesting. How is the metal scene there?
Well, actually, quite alive and well. The label, the album is releasing from Consoling Sounds from Ghent. They have a stellar lineup with some Belgian bands as well. I think most famous of which Amen Ra, but also bands like Wiegedood, Brutus. Slightly more underground, you have stuff like Bloedmaan, Anzaat. Honestly, there's a lot in the Belgian alternative scene. Not just metal, but also more like alternative rock, like Raketkanon, Kapitan Korsakov. Yeah, it's definitely alive and well.
No, that's cool to know.
Yeah.
The artwork for this album has been made by yourself. What does represent this artwork?
Well, first of all, I was looking for a striking image, which I found in the way of like the head floating in space with part of the skull missing. I think you could say, in a way, it represents, well, the eternity of space. That is also quite a big part of the album. It's also what the album title in part refers to. Space as this eternally ticking clockwork mechanism that kind of contrasts with the decaying nature, how do you say it? Like the ending nature of our own existence, and how that existence can go on to flow into other stuff. If that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. I totally understand, because the universe is endless. So you understand and you ask to yourself if it's going to end, this universe. I think that is the expression of this album, that you were asking to yourself if the universe has an ending, right?
Yeah, partly, but it's also mostly, if I look at the album and the songs I made, it's a sonic reflection of like standing outside, looking at the night sky, and being in wonder and in awe and amazement. On one hand, for the cold harshness of space, but otherwise also on the other hand also the beauty of it, and how it is such a perfect system, and how it will always keep turning, and how it has its own set of rules that it will always abide by. And I think each song more or less represents a separate aspect, or like a separate story that could be told about space.
In black metal, for example, there are some bands that used experimental tracks in their songs. For example, the most famous one for me is Euronymous from Mayhem, that asked Cora Schnitzler to do that intro for Death Crush. Will you ask to an electronic musician to do something like that?
I might. I'm very open to having like a collaboration with other artists. For now, it's always been a solo project, and it's been like a pretty personal thing where I can truly, without compromise, put my own vision into sound. But if I can find other people that will be open to collabs, I'd very much like to do so, yeah.
I really wish for you to find an electronic musician that would like to cooperate with you one day, and even make a featuring for some single, who knows.
Yeah, that would be cool.
I don't know very much about experimental tracks, but what are your main influences about experimental sound? For example, Euronymous liked Tangerine Dream, Klaus Schulze, and all that school of German techno. Do you know something like that, or you prefer other schools in techno music or electronic sound?
Well, in electronic sound, I think there's quite a bit of different artists and styles I draw inspiration from. For example, I really like to work with like glitchy sounds, drum beats that were completely mangled up or rearranged, or that are glitching out in some way. But on the other hand, well, in that aspect, I very much look to artists like Aphex Twin, Phoenician Snares, Igor, mostly the IDM or intelligent dance music, as it's very, very pretentiously called.
Oh.
But on the other hand, I also think like a lot of the sound design and the way synthesizer sounds are made, and for example drum and bass, are very intricate and definitely an inspiration and stuff I like to do. For example, in the opening synthesizer sound of Collapsing Black is very much inspired by that. Or the electronic section on the first track of the album, The Dollar, is also very much inspired by sound design techniques that were borrowed from drum and bass and neurofunk artists.
Drum and bass, I have listened something which is very particular sound. Certain songs are very cool, but I am not an expert about techno music. But it is a very important sound. Even bands like Ulver, for example, use that experimental sound, definitely. Your lyrics are very interesting, by the way. I read a couple of them. Themes like creation, cosmology, and materialism. What do you want to express with your music?
Well, for this album in particular, it was, like I said, mostly the sense of wonderment you get when you look up at the sky at night and wonder on one hand about the cold void and how it's completely hostile to any form of life, but on the other hand also a very, very beautiful something to look at. And I think each song corresponds with a certain aspect of that I want to tell. For example, the first track is simply about being lost in space and exactly about that hostility and how much of a hostile environment it is. But on the other hand, a track like Offer, which means sacrifice in English, is about the story of the Russian cosmonaut Vladimir Komarov. So it is very diverse, the topics of each song.
The universe is the center of it. The creation, of course, is always the center of it. And I like that you represent not only the universe itself, but even the question that the human mind asks to himself, and try to make music even to try to elaborate that impossible information, because there is no proper answer to the birth of the universe. So existential questions are very important and very meaningful for the rest of your own life. So the fact that you were trying to answer to these questions, it is something important. Really, I really mean that.
Yeah, thank you. It's also one of the other angles I find so interesting about space, is that on one hand we have like a set of rules, the laws of physics that apply just as much as they do in space as they do on Earth. just under very extreme circumstances. But on the other hand, there is just so much about space that we just have to say, well, we just don't know. We have no clue. We don't know. And I find that very, very inspiring, because it's one of the last places of true wonder and true mystery that we have left.
Yeah, and then listening to this album is like you make a trip. It's like you make a trip to this space, and listening to that album, it's like a movie soundtrack. It's like I'm listening and watching a movie. Have you ever imagined to be in a movie soundtrack one day?
That would be very cool, but I also think the style of the music is, pardon my pun, but a little bit too far out there to be used as anything like maybe a movie soundtrack. But I do really appreciate you saying that it evokes the feeling of it being like a soundtrack, or like being a continuous narrative or story. I really like that.
This is the first album of Druon Antigon, or there are other works that you did before?
No, there was a previous album called Des Ontstijging that really did delve more into like the, I guess, more of an existential dread. It also had like the cosmos as a theme, but it really focused on what we as humanity mean in the grand scale of the cosmos, which is honestly absolutely nothing. And the foolishness of trying to be more than that absolutely nothing in the grand scale.
Thinking about the soul, the term of the soul, do you think that we have a soul, or there is more than that?
That's a very weighty question.
I know it's impossible probably to answer. I like to answer to this question like about existence, about the human form, because we are humans in this third dimension. You know, there are many dimensions. I even read something about that, so I really like the universe as a theme. So, but I promise I don't have many questions about that, because I understand you that.
No, that's fine. That's fine. Well, I don't think the human being has like a soul in the classical sense that a human body is comprised of a soul and a body, and that those are two separate entities. But I think in a certain sense you do cultivate or develop a certain kind of soul according to the actions you take in life, or what kind of life you live, or what kind of legacy you leave behind. I think you could construe that as being a soul.
Do you use a synthesizer, or is a computer program that you are using in this album?
Many. The recording always happens with like what they call a digital audio workstation, which is basically your main program that you do the composing in, and that you record in, that kind of stuff. But it's also the platform from which you run your synthesizers. And like I said, there's quite a lot of different synthesizers that have been used. Digital ones, that is.
And are you signed with a label right now at the moment?
Well, the current album is coming out through Consoling Sounds. It's a single album deal for now. It's not like signed with a label in the sense that I'm going to keep making music in the name of Consoling Sound, but I did send the album to them, and they told me, well, we like it very much, and we'd love to provide a physical release for the album. So we'd love to provide CDs and vinyl. Yeah.
Right now, with the artificial intelligence I don't know if you agree with this expansion of this new intelligence that is coming out now. Do you agree with artificial intelligence? Do you disagree with that?
Well, it's first and foremost, it's a tool, I think. I think it's very hard to either agree or disagree with a tool. It will be like disagreeing with a hammer. But I also think we have to be very mindful of how that tool is being utilized. For one, especially in like visual art, it can definitely put a lot of artists out of work, even though it definitely doesn't have the same soul, if you will, or the same meaning to it that an actual artist could put in their work. But I do think it's a dangerous kind of competition for a lot of other artists. Also in the field of making music, I think there's some very concerning developments concerning AI and the way it can be used, especially when combined with certain copyright laws. For example, I recently saw a musician that did it as a thought experiment, that used an AI tool to recreate a song, or to create a song that recreates his own style as much as possible. He then registered it through like an aggregator service to get it on the streaming services, which then caused himself to get a copyright strike on the music he made originally, in favor of the AI track that was uploaded. So it's definitely possible to have like an AI track that kind of overrules and a song that was made by an actual artist. And I do think that things like that are worrying.
Are you recording your stuff at the moment?
Yeah, I'm always recording stuff. If it's going to be good enough to make the cut for an album, remains to be seen. But I am still recording almost daily.
Wow.
But there is some stuff that I do like I'm going to keep working on and keep hammering at, to maybe make it into a new album.
Wow, why not? I really hope that...
No, not really soon. It's more in the sense that I also just record a lot of music that doesn't get used, that I'm working on, and then decide on this is not going anywhere, or I'm not really liking this. On the one hand, it's like a fun pastime, and on the other hand, it's a good way to keep your knowledge and your skill sets sharp enough.
Yeah.
So it's a sort of practice, honestly.
Yeah, very wise, by the way. About, I don't know if there is a sort of book or there is multiple books that could inspire your career in the musical field. What are the best titles of books that could inspire you?
I think one that does inspire me is Roadside Picnic by the Strugatsky brothers. It was also the inspiration later for the movie Stalker, and the subsequent video games that were also inspired by that movie and that book. But I also really like the book. The book is Roadside Picnic, excuse me. Basically it deals with aliens coming to Earth one day, deciding that Earth is honestly kind of meh, and immediately leaving again. But like at a roadside picnic, they basically just dump their trash on Earth. But since their technology is so miles far ahead of us, even their trash are total technological and technological wonders that completely defy the laws of physics. and those artifacts are very much sought after.
Wow. So I think that the aliens really inspired many books. Do you believe in extraterrestrial? Do you believe in extraterrestrial beings?
In a way, I do not believe it is possible that we're alone in like an endless universe. I think logically that does not make sense. But I also don't believe like we're being watched by aliens or any of the tinfoil hats conspiracy theories. But I do believe that life is definitely out there somewhere. I want to believe.
I really think that there is something out there that we don't know. But one day I think we will discover what it is.
I don't know if humans have the capability of ever discovering what it is. We would first have to find a way to communicate efficiently over such long distances, let alone travel over long distances.
Yeah, I mean in 1,000 years, for example. No, I'm not saying now.
Yeah. Well, if we're still around in 1,000 years, it might be possible.
Yeah, definitely. Something that I forgot to ask about to finish this interview.
The album should be available on all the major streaming platforms, I think, like Spotify, YouTube, Tidal, all that kind of good stuff. Otherwise, it's also very much possible to buy physical copies of either a vinyl or a CD through Consoling Sounds or through my own Bandcamp page. And if you do decide to do that, I'd be very honored. It's still quite overwhelming, quite strange to me to have a box filled with vinyl and CDs of the music I made. So if people are actually willing to pay money to listen to it, it's still kind of strange.
I really wish you for that, because I know that having a physical copy is different from a digital copy. It's different, the approach. And to have a physical copy, I pay you and the people pay to you directly. It's not like Spotify royalties and stuff, and it's totally different, the payment there, I guess. So the physical copy is more important, I guess.
I guess there's more of an intent behind it if you go to someone directly to like, I want to buy this album from you. There's a definite intention of wanting to have said album instead of quickly Googling or quickly looking something up on a streaming service. But either way, I'm very honored that people want to listen to the music. Whether it's through a streaming service, whether it's through a physical medium, I can't find any other words than I'm very honored.
Well, it has been a nice pleasure, Lennart.
Yeah, likewise. I think this is the first time I've done like an actual honest-to-God interview, so it's a new experience.
I think you will get used to it. One day you will get used to it. Like I'm used.
Well, anyway, it has been very great fun. It's an interesting conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. See you soon, and
all right. Thanks for having me, and will do. Maybe until the next time.
Absolutely. Okay. See you soon.
All right. Goodbye.
And that's all for this episode of Death Blow Podcast. Subscribe, like and share my episodes, and click on the bell to be updated about new videos. Spotify and Apple Podcast for the audio version, Instagram, Facebook and TikTok to receive more infos. See you soon, guys!